Hello, I'm Lindsay Bell, and I'm running for mayor of the City of Prescott. I'm running because I want to help build a strong future for everybody's hometown. Prescott has been my hometown for 40 years. I moved here as a young bride. This is where my husband and I put down roots. Our two girls were born and raised here, and we have several grandchildren growing up here as well. Prescott is a wonderful community. We enjoy a great quality of life. We live in beautiful surroundings and natural landmarks. And we have a lot of good cultural amenities to enjoy. And we have a great arts sector too in the community. But I have to tell you that the best thing, the very best thing about the City of Prescott is the people. And definitely the sense of community that we all share. In the past few weeks we've seen very ample evidence of that. In the aftermath of the tragic fire in Yarnell Hill, where we had the tragic loss of 19 members of the Granite Mountain Hot Shots crew, the community has come together and grieved and mourned with the families and survivors of the hot shot. We've also rallied support for the families and the survivors and the other victims of the fire. It's a wonderful community. We are Prescott strong. Now, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I care passionately about the City of Prescott, and I want to help preserve the quality of life and that sense of community for future generations to enjoy. Unfortunately, our hometown is facing some challenges. Certainly, the city revenues are still down, unemployment persists, our schools are definitely struggling with budget issues. And young people tell me that it's very hard for them to do what I did, put down roots, buy a home, raise a family here. There aren't that many opportunities for young people to stay here and make their life here. I want to help turn that around, and I think I can make a positive contribution to making for a strong future for the City of Prescott. I'll just mention a couple of things that have come up recently. Water. Arguably, water is one of the most critical issues that we face as a community. And at a time when we should be having lots of conversations with our neighbors and forging regional water policy solutions, we seem to be talking with our neighbors less and less. And when we do talk with them, we're emphasizing the divisions among us instead of the commonalities that we have. We've got to do something about that. I think it's time to step up the leadership on City Council. I'll give a couple of more examples. Open space. 13 years ago, the voters of Prescott said, we want open space and we're willing to pay for it. It's not often that voters say that they're willing to tax themselves for some purpose. But we said that here. In the years since that vote, the city has only spent $17 million out of the original $40.7 million originally pledged for open space. Now I can buy that in a year or two that maybe the streets part of that proposition need to take precedent, but I can't buy that for 13 years in a row. We need to step up the open space purchases, and especially since that proposition is going to expire in just 2 years. Along the years, we've had some critical properties that the city didn't purchase, and those properties were later developed. Reminds me of the lyrics from the 60s song, "They paved paradise and put up a parking lot." When the open space is gone, it's gone forever. We shouldn't do that to our future generations here. There is a property that the city has the opportunity to buy now, which is a critical property. It's one of the most beautiful properties in the area, the heart of the Granite Dells. It's the old Granite Dells Resort property. A lot of folks, longtime Prescottonians, had lots of fun there. They went to the dances at the dance hall. They went swimming in the swimming pool. I'm told that a lot of senior classes had their senior day out at the Granite Dells Resort. The city has an opportunity to buy that property. And not only is it an historic property that would capture the historic tradition of the Granite Dells Resort, but it's also at the nexus of the city's trail system, and it would connect the two lakes. a wonderful location for a visitor center or perhaps a museum center for residents and tourists alike. But so far the city has said, no thanks, we'll pass on that. I think this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to capture and preserve for the future a wonderful amenity, some of the most beautiful country and landmarks in the region, as well as the historic buildings at the Granite Dells Resort. People have asked me what I bring to the City Council that is unique. I'd have to say I'm a planner by both training and inclination. My educational background is I have a master's in public administration, and while I was pursuing that degree at Arizona State University, I'm an alum from ASU, I concentrated on budget and finance and policy and planning. We need plans to help guide us into the future, to help supply the benchmarks and the pathway into a successful future. But the city hasn't been doing so well with planning in recent years. The last neighborhood plan that we did was 12 years ago. Neighborhood plans were a great tool for an individual neighborhood to have a conversation and a dialogue with the city about the issues that that neighborhood cared most about. For some neighborhoods, the plan concentrated on traffic issues. For other neighborhoods, it was property maintenance issues. A couple of neighborhoods were concerned about the increasing encroachment of fourplexes and triplexes and the changing nature of their neighborhood. We haven't done one of those in 12 years. The last specific area plan that was done 10 years ago. Now, I participated in many of the specific area plans. I was part of the Prescott East area plan, the Willow Lake South area plan. Those plans gave more detail to a specific geographic area in the city. We haven't done one in 10 years. The last master plans that were done for the City of Prescott, for Parks and Recreation and for the airport, were 5 and 6 years ago, respectively. That's not providing a blueprint for the future. Even the general plan, which under state law has to be updated and submitted to the voters for ratification every 10 years, we're just barely going to make that window. The last general plan, I participated on that committee too as well, was ratified by the voters in 2004. There has been a committee working on that this past year, and there is a draft out to department heads for review and comment, but it doesn't look like we're going to be able to put that on a ballot and submit it to the voters for approval until 2014. So we will just make that 10-year window. We need to do better with planning. It's plans that help you lay the groundwork and a pathway to the future. So that's something different that I bring to City Council that some of the other folks might not bring. I've lived here for 40 years, and 30 of those years I have been actively involved with the City of Prescott on various public policy issues. Lots of planning committees, lots of efforts to move the city forward. I was part of the team that negotiated the purchase of Watson and Willow Lakes. It's one of my proudest achievements when I served on City Council, because I'm not new to public office. I have served on the council before and was part of the team that not only helped negotiate the purchase of Watson and Willow Lakes for future generations, but also helped to shape the city's first water management policy after we were declared to be in a state of water mining by the Arizona Department of Water Resources. So I have a strong background in particular on water, strong background on planning, and 30 years of experience with specific to city public policy issues. Let's talk about the water. That's certainly one of the most critical issues that we need to face, and there's been a lot of talk about whether we need to go for a pipeline out to the Big Chino Aquifer. My guess is that eventually we're going to need to import water from outside the active management area and bring water in from the Big Chino Aquifer. But I would like to put that off as long as possible. When I was on city council in the late 90s, about the time that ADWR declared us to be in a state of water mining, we talked about whether we would ever need to import water from the Big Chino. And the city manager at the time, Mark Stevens, he was a really visionary city manager, and he always told us, this is the most expensive water we'll ever use in the city of Prescott. It's also the most politically contentious water we will ever use, and it also will have the most negative environmental impacts of any other source of water. So let's try and put off tapping that water as long as possible. And when we do that, when we do have to build that pipeline and bring water in from the Big Chino aquifer, let's do it with a clear plan for safe yield for the entire active management area, and let's be sure that we mitigate any negative effects to the Verde River. The headwaters of the Verde River are near to the Big Chino aquifer, and the science that we have so far shows that there is a clear connection between the Big Chino aquifer and the headwaters of the Verde River. So if we start pumping, we need to be sure that we mitigate any negative effects to the Verde. The Verde is one of the most threatened rivers in the entire country. It's also one of the most important rivers to the state. It's the last continuously flowing river in the state of Arizona. We certainly don't want the Verde to go the way of the Santa Cruz. So that's something that I am absolutely committed to, is mitigation and protecting the flows into the Verde. The Verde provides water to over 2 million people. It's lifeblood of the economy in the Verde Valley, and it certainly is critical habitat and home to a very diverse variety of flora and fauna. Shame on all of us if we allow that habitat and that watershed to deteriorate because we've pumped too fast, too soon, too quickly out of the Big Chino. Now, one of the other issues that I think we need to talk about in this election is the economy. Prescott's still struggling to get back to where it was before the recession. In 2007, the year before the recession hit, the city of Prescott had $1.5 billion in taxable sales. We're not quite back to that level yet. We've made some strides, but we still have some more work to do. In 2012, last year, we got 1.2 billion in taxable sales within the city of Prescott. It's taxable sales that are the lifeblood of city revenues because of state law here in Arizona. City governments depend on local sales tax to pay for services, whether that's basic services like police and fire, water and sewer, streets, infrastructure, and so forth. The bulk of that money comes from sales tax. In 2007, the sales tax being paid into the city of Prescott was about 31 million. In 2012, we were up to 24.6 million. So we're still about 6 million off the pace that we need to get back to in order to provide for the services and provide a secure revenue stream so that we can support the police and fire, the water and the sewer, the streets and the infrastructure. So the economy is a critical thing. 3 years ago, when the City of Prescott Economic Development Director retired, the city made a decision at that time not to replace her. Instead, they put that money into hiring a tourism director. And tourism is a good thing. It needs to definitely be part of an overall comprehensive economic development program. But it isn't the be-all and end-all, and it doesn't necessarily bring in the high-quality jobs that we need to pay living wages so that folks who are still working and young people in particular who are just starting out can have a living wage. For that, you need to do business attraction and recruitment, and you need an economic development program to do that that goes beyond tourism. We're just now hiring for an economic development director, and that's a good thing. I'm glad we're taking the step to hire someone, but I worry about the lost opportunities of the last 3 years, and I wonder where we might have been had we hired and replaced the economic development director 3 years ago. So I think that's a concern. We need to do better. We need to step up the leadership on economic development. Now, another thing that I've heard of as I've gone around the community talking to voters is concerns about the transparency of government and access of citizens to participation in their city government. This council has done away with the study sessions. They've replaced those with occasional workshops and caucus sessions, but they don't allow the public to participate in those or to even ask questions, or they don't take testimony for those. So the opportunities that people have to interact with their city government are much fewer than they were a few years ago. All of the city meetings are also during the business day, during the week. They're mostly done by 5 o'clock. So if you're a working family and you have an issue that you want to raise with City Council, you have to take time off from work to do that. I don't think that's a good thing. The other piece of the citizen access and the transparency is the number of executive sessions. This council goes into executive sessions all the time. And there are even kind of questions about, are they going into executive session for the right reasons? It seems to me that some of those discussions could be done in regular public open session with an opportunity for the citizenry to come, hear the discussion, ask questions, make comments. So I think a lot of people are concerned about the transparency in government. One of the ideas that I would bring forward is to take the council on the road, go into neighborhoods, hold town hall type sessions or even regular council meetings in local neighborhoods and allow the folks in that neighborhood to provide testimony to council, to ask questions of council, and to have the council spend some time on the issues that are unique and specific to that individual neighborhood. We did that when I was on city council in the late 90s, and it was very effective and very well received. We need to do more things like that to extend ourselves to the community and to encourage and promote citizen inclusion and citizen participation in local government. As I said before, I think it's time to step up the leadership on City Council, and I hope you will step up with Lindsay Bell. I'm not new to public service. I have served on the City Council before. While I was in service on City Council, I was part of the team that negotiated the purchase of Watson and Willow Lakes. I was also a member of the team that established the first comprehensive water management policy after it was declared to be in a state of water mining for the Prescott active management area. I also was part of the team that did the planning for the Prescott Gateway Mall, which is the largest economic development project that the city has embarked upon to date. I'm very proud of all of those accomplishments, and I'd like to serve again on the City Council, and I'd be honored and privileged to serve as your mayor. People tell me that candidates should not be making promises to the voters, but I'm going to ignore that advice and jump in anyway. Here's my promises to the voters. I promise to do my homework, research the issues, and try to get the best information about the policy alternatives before us. I promise to promote and encourage inclusion and citizen participation in government. I promise to bring all voices and all perspectives to the public policy debate. I fervently believe that we get the best public policy when all voices are heard and all concerns are blended, and we can come out with a win-win decision. I promise to promote transparency in government. Fewer executive sessions for sure. After reviewing all the alternatives and hearing all the voices and taking all of the input, I promise to choose those policy alternatives which I believe in my heart are best for the entire community of the City of Prescott. I have the skills, I have the experience, I have the commitment, and I certainly have the passion to serve as your mayor. I think I have the background to provide and help build a strong future for the City of Prescott. As you make your choices on the ballot for the August 27th primary election, I hope that you will vote for me, Lindsay Bell, for Mayor, City of Prescott. Thank you.